Good afternoon, everyone. Is Sablisa here already? Good afternoon, Sheila ma'am.
Yes, hello.
Vineet, has Sablisa joined?
I don't think so.
Yeah, even I can't see.
Can you hear me properly? Because I was doing the testing and the sound wasn't working very well.
Absolutely, ma'am. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, okay.
No problem.
So it's nice to see there's quite a good audience, but
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All our
many,
students
I
have
think
come.
some names, some people I know, many people I don't know.
Yes,
Getting a
most of
new
most
audience.
of them are the first year
Yeah,
students. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I thought. So, so welcome everybody.
Yes. Mukant Bishwas from Jahangirnagar University, Dhaka is there. Welcome.
Yes, yes.
We're very happy
Yeah.
that you have joined us from Bangladesh.
Yeah. International talk हो गया,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Thank you for making it so.
If
Madam,
Sablisa doesn't join,
uh,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sabre sir
Yeah.
will be
Ah,
joining in for 5 minutes.
okay. So we'll wait for him.
Yes,
What
yes,
did he
yes.
say?
No,
Acha. So
he's
we'll have to
joining
wait.
now.
Okay, okay, good, good, fine. We'll start. The moment he joins, we'll start.
Yeah.
Hello, Varsha. We have Varsha Jangra from Jahangirnagar University. Nee, sorry, from MDU, Rohtak University. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Some of my seniors are there. I think Shobhadi is there. Are you there, Shobhadi? Hello, Priti Prabhune. Very low volume. No, volume is absolutely okay at my end. Priti, please check the connection at your end or the volumes at your end. If you want, you can probably leave once and then again join us back. Sable sir is here.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, sir, we'll start then.
Yeah. Yeah, ma'am is already joined, I think.
Yes, ma'am has joined.
Sorry, I
Okay.
was in the laboratory.
Yeah, no problem, sir. So, very good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you to the archaeology group discussion group of Deccan College. For those who are joining us for the first time, just let me mention one line. This archaeology discussion group was an initiative that started in Deccan College from 1980s, the main purpose being to encourage healthy academic exchange and discussion between our students and our faculties, and of course faculties from different other institutes all over India as well as abroad. So this tradition, this legacy had been continuing, and of course because of the pandemic situation, now we have moved on into an online format. So today we are very happy and honored to have with us one of our own, in fact, Professor Sheila Mishra ma'am. Well, everyone who is from Deccan College or associated with Deccan College, Sheila ma'am really doesn't need any introduction. However, just to mention that she is a very prominent prehistorian and a geoarchaeologist. She had more than 30 years of experience in undertaking research in prehistory, with special focus and reference to Acheulean. She has published thoroughly in all in many reputed journals, both national and international. And he's a former faculty of Deccan College. He retired from Deccan College as the head of the department just a few years back. So ma'am, we are very happy, and we thank you that you have made out some time from your busy schedule and you agreed to do this for us. So without any further ado, I would like to call upon Mishra ma'am. Ma'am, you can start your presentation.
Okay. Yes. Share. Oh, I don't know. I'm clicking share, but it's not happening.
Ma'am, you first open your PPT first.
Okay.
Then you go, and when you share, you choose your entire screen.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, first open the PPT, then you choose share
Yeah,
your
but
entire.
if I put it on that presentation mode, then I can't find the Meet tab. So anyway, I've come to the Meet tab. There is the presentation, like that arrow, present now.
Yes, ma'am. So present now में जाके you choose
Entire
your
screen.
screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you choose that, then you maximize the PPT screen.
Oh, okay. I was trying to put this. Okay, is it being shared?
No, ma'am, not yet.
So So that was the whole thing. In this, there is there is something called, like, at the bottom there is share and cancel, but somehow cancel is only highlighted and share
No,
is not
cancel, nothing should come, ma'am. वो जो arrow mark है,
I
present
pressed
now,
that.
yeah,
Share your entire screen.
yeah.
Share means to share the contents.
Yeah, for share your entire screen, you have to choose the screen first. Tap on the screen first,
Okay.
and then you see the share button is highlighted in blue color.
Okay.
Is it coming?
No. No, the share is not
No,
getting.
ma'am. Within the small white window, when you are opening that, now the small white window is opening, right? It's popping
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's written above share your entire screen. So below that, just touch that window. Touch that.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Ah. Now see the share will become active. The share button will be, yeah, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, okay. Oh.
And now you can choose a full screen, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Okay. Sorry for that. So I guess this is the first time I've actually given a lecture on Google Meet. I've listened to some talks on it before. So yes. Now, I little bit apologize. I've not thought of a very specific topic, but I thought on this I can definitely talk for an hour. So I have just put together a few things to talk about. And I also am very happy to be again talking to a Deccan College audience. And I would like now it is 5 years since I've been retired. So most of the people, at least students who are currently there, they have not had me as a teacher. Perhaps they don't know me. They might have only heard of me. So anyway, I sort of selected these topics. So I have put that it's, new developments in Indian prehistory, but I'm more going for a sort of general thing. Like, there's so much work going on all the time. Things change so much. And just when you sit back and you think, okay, 5 years ago, how many things were not known? And then you began to realize, like, how everything has changed so much. So one thing I have realized, one of the big themes in, like, teaching Indian prehistory is, like, there was the big controversy whether we should use African terminology or European terminology. What is the Stone Age sequence? And there was so many pages and pages and discussion about this. But now what I find is that when you actually read papers, even the people in Europe and Africa don't use those terms. So when I do a search on Google, I don't put Lower Paleolithic, I just put Paleolithic. And I think so. This is one thing that's had a major impact. So I think that this kind of discussion, although it still occupies a lot of our energy, it actually, people are not really rejecting it. It's just become less relevant, less important in the discussion. Then another thing that's had a huge impact on every way we think about the Paleolithic is ancient and modern DNA. So this is like, due to technological advances, there has been so much more data, so many more like you know, when I, yeah, like, this is just some wondrous kind of magical machinery which has allowed us to find out so much more. It's a completely new branch, but because it's not well integrated with the archaeology. So this is where, like, archaeologists are struggling to really digest the findings of the ancient DNA. And the people who do this, very often they don't have a very deep understanding about the archaeological data. So there is sometimes a very transformative effect. Sometimes it takes a while for the two data sets to get kind of reconciled. Now, in the Indian prehistory, if I think back to the time before I was retired, basically the whole problem in India was that there were two very distinctive kind of Paleolithic. there was the Acheulean, which fits very well with Lower Paleolithic. It also has some similarity to the Acheulean in Africa and to some extent in Europe. And then there was the microblades. Or I'm going to start using the word microblade instead of microlith, and I'll discuss why later. But these things are like anybody will say they're different. And they stratigraphically belong to different ages. They are completely different technologies. But they are so different from each other. And in between them, what was happening? Why is there this kind of a gap? And this was actually one of the big puzzles of Indian prehistory. What happens between this Acheulean and between the microliths? Now, another thing I'll probably end up with is the importance of the Indian subcontinent for humans full stop, and the significance of large flake Acheulean in human evolution in Indian prehistory. So I will look at the clock, and maybe I may not go into these deep. I'll see if there is time to get to these. Now, what has really kind of replaced using these terms like Upper Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic? Right now, you'll see for at least the sites from this last 300,000 years, there is a tendency to correlate it to the global climate state. And this is the marine isotope stages. So this has been just taken from, I just did a Google search. This is the one that came out the first. But I just want you to know the chronology. And the reason why this is so important, because it is global. So if you can find out in your area which of these stages it belongs to, and then somebody else has found out where your site belongs in this sequence, then you have some idea about where they belong in each other. So here we see, we're looking, so the first thing to know is, okay, so what is this, huh? So this curve is actually reflecting the changing ice versus water volume on the planet, okay? So when there is more water and less ice, then that is a period of warm climate. And here we have stage 1. This is the present. It's a warm climate. It's one of the times in Earth's, in the quaternary, where you have a very, a warm climate where you have high sea levels and you have very little bit, a reduced, shrunken continental glaciers. Now, the last time that the sea level and the ice sheet was as high and the ice sheets were as small was around 125 years ago. Now, in between, you see this whole thing. So they're kind of, so these stages are numbered 1 from the present backwards. So all the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, these are the warm stages. And all the even numbers of these stages are cold, 2, 6, 8, 10. Now, this is just giving this scale back to 350,000, but this goes back right to the beginning of the quaternary. Now, these also have substages. Then there's something called abrupt events, which is something different. So you can see that this stage 5 is all warm, but there was only a very short period where it was as warm as now. So the substages of one of these stages are given letters A, B, C, D, E. So A, C, and E are warm, and B and D are cold. So similarly, this stage 3, which is from about 55,000 to, I'm not sure, 18,000 or so. This is a warm stage within, it's considered a warm stage, but it's not as warm as 5, and it's not as warm as 1. And then you have this very short stage 4. You see this very small stage 4, which was just between 75,000 and 55,000. And then you have this. So another thing that you find is that the warming is very fast and the cooling is very slow, with a lot of like wiggles in the curve. So this is what is called a sawtooth curve. So now, oh yeah, here I put it. So the boundary between Lower Paleolithic and Middle Paleolithic is in Europe considered somewhere around stage 9, which is like between 300 and 350,000 years. So this is when the Levallois technology enters Europe. And so the earlier part of that is called early Paleolithic, early Middle Paleolithic, and then, or I think this is early Middle Paleolithic. And between, no, I think the early, yeah, so early Paleolithic is before 9 and late Paleolithic is afterwards, late Middle Paleolithic. Then the earliest Acheulean in Europe is somewhere around MIS 13 to 15, which is around 400 to 500,000 years ago. The first modern humans actually are somewhere around 300,000 years ago. But the replacement of Neanderthals is early in stage C, in stage 3, that is around 39 to 41,000 years. But it's actually stage 3 starts from 55,000. So, it's not exactly earliest 3, but it's still early in 3. So you have multiple modern dispersals, definitely in stage 5, who knows, maybe in stage 7 also. Now, the impact of modern and ancient DNA on understanding past human migrations. This is also one of the really big new things in Paleolithic archaeology. So before I retired, somewhere like in the 10 to 15 years ago, they started to be able to get the data for whole human biome, whole human like chromosomes, the DNA from the whole human cell. And then they started to look at the variation, and this was the variation among modern people. So this was the kind of like descent was looked at with the DNA from the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, because that is not it's not fragmented as it's passed down. It's passed down complete from mother to daughter, from father to son. And so it can kind of preserve more of the origin of that branch as it kind of accumulates some kind of variation. So what this analysis of modern DNA showed was that all non-Africans are descended from a single branch of African mitochondrial DNA. So this is taken that means that all living people descend from one group of people who left Africa. And then looking at the amount of variation in that line which left Africa, they estimated that this migration from Africa happened around 60 to 70,000 years ago. Now, when this was like early, where they had only the modern DNA. But when they started to get the DNA from skeletons, then they found that the population movements within the Holocene have been so significant that there's hardly any place in the world where the people living today are descended from the people who came here, the original modern humans who came there. So this means that this DNA is like, you sort of have to reconsider exactly what is happening. Now, also, the second thing besides the ancient DNA, which was kind of messing up this nice picture that came out after they first studied the modern DNA, was that fossils and archaeology showed that modern humans were outside of Africa, at least from marine isotope 5, and they might have been widely dispersed, and they could have been even dispersed earlier than MIS 5. And the earliest fossils with derived modern human characters are actually no longer are no longer the ones in Africa, but ones in Mediterranean, the Jebel Erud, Massilia, Apidemia fossils, which have all these things have actually been reported in the last 5 years. And then people have started to work. Now, so the other thing which is being studied is the amount of the archaic, like, so when they have ancient human DNA, they were able to get the DNA of some distinct populations called Neanderthals and Denisovans. And this Neanderthal and Denisovan, some percentages of both of these ancient forms of humans is present in almost every modern human alive today. So how so the implications of that, statistically studying that, and this also has been used to reconstruct some of the dispersals of modern humans. Now, I just like this is a very complex topic. I just thought I'll give you some papers which may help you understand. So, for India, this book, which is written by a journalist, Tony Joseph, uh, Early Indians, the story of our ancestors and where we came from, published by Jagannath Press. This is he's done a very good job of explaining this. Now, one paper which I found the most useful for studying the admixture is Textera and Cooper 2019. So he has explained it quite well. And then this Holocene, like what kind of migrations happened in Europe, this Lazardis et al. 2018 is good. And I just put this other rails back because that graph of the MIS of the climate thing has come from this paper. Huh? But this is a standard thing which many papers would have. Now dating, now another big revolution that has happened is a more precise radiocarbon dating. So when there were this whole event of the replacement of Neanderthals by modern humans happens at almost the very limit of radiocarbon dating. Somewhere around 40,000 years is when radiocarbon date, older ones cannot be dated. So contamination becomes a very big issue because even a very tiny amount of contamination can make the date younger. So you had a very huge scatter of dates for Neanderthals in Europe, some of them going as young as 26,000. So there were a lot of people who thought that there may be a lot of coexistence between Neanderthals and modern humans in Europe, maybe over 10 or 15,000 years. But this lab in Oxford, they devised this new technique of pre-treatment. What they do is that the ancient proteins in the bone are all in small fragments. So any fragment which is of molecule which is bigger is likely to be modern. It's likely to be contamination. So they extract the proteins from the bone and then they filter it. So only the smaller fragments can come out. And then they date only those ones which have this damage due to age. And when they start, so they had this whole program of resampling, redating sites. And when they did this, the whole dates came so clearly in focus. The dates are this: the Neanderthals were replaced by modern humans between 39 and 41,000 years. I think it's amazing that they could narrow it down to 3,000 years. And they have actually narrowed it down more because the dates which are to the east are earlier than the ones to the west. So the overlap between modern humans and Neanderthals at any one spot was really within 1,000 years. So this is really an event. Now this is fixed in this time of 41,000 to 39,000. But what happened before? I've already related to you like how early modern humans are. So this is the problem of modern human dispersal. This is one of the really big problems today, which lots of people are puzzled about. Hundreds of papers are written about it. The first problem is, why was it so protracted? Now, the earliest modern humans, these are not exactly the same as modern humans today. Now, but it's the modern human lineage. So how you determine this is that you look at some difference between modern humans and fossils which are earlier or fossils which are contemporary. And any change which has happened, which is on the modern human line and not on the other lines, means that these fossils are the ancestors of modern humans. So I guess 350 might be a little bit early, but the earliest modern humans, okay, wait a minute. How do I go back? Okay. Yeah, so the earliest modern humans are from this Jebel Erud. They do have smaller brains, more robust skulls, more robust bodies, but they have the globular shape of the skull, which is um, typical of modern humans, and some other features which are present in modern humans and not present in other what they call archaic humans. Now you have, so this is Jebel Erud is in Morocco, so in the Mediterranean of Africa, and then you have modern humans in the Middle East. During MIS 5 at school in Kofsa, they date to 90 to 120,000 years. A site which has been just a couple of months ago reported, Nesher Ramla, 120 kilo years. And then this site of Manod Cave, 55,000. So now all of these dates, obviously the dating methods are not so precise. I've just put, there's a plus and minus of 10 or 15,000 years on all these dates. Now, yeah, so so this is for, they also have a site called Mycelia. Also, this has been reported within the last 5 years, which dates to 180,000 years, which would be earlier than MIS 5. Pidima at 210 kilo years, which is in Greece, and Jebel Erud, this is 315 years. And the earlier than this last 5 years, when all these sites have been reported, the earliest sites were Herto in Africa, which is only about 200 kilo years. So the person who has reported on Jebel Erud said, are modern humans from Africa, or are they from the Mediterranean? The earliest dates are actually coming from the Mediterranean zone. Now the thing is that in the Mediterranean zone, you have modern humans during stage 5, earlier than stage 5. But during the marine isotope stage 4, which dates from 75,000 to 56,000, so see, Manot Cave is 55,000. It's actually in stage 3. Only Neanderthal fossils have been found in the Middle East. And there are many fossils. There are many sites where you have Neanderthals belonging to this period. So you have modern humans earlier, and then between 75 and 56,000, no modern humans. And then at 40,000, Neanderthals disappear. So this is really like very puzzling. Now in South Africa, which is very far away from Europe, they have a lot of sites, and during many of them have got long sequences. So this MIS 5 is considered that they are modern humans. There is little known about other parts of the world. Now I'm just showing you. So if you look at this, I think it's quite interesting that during stage 4, many sites are there in the Mediterranean. This is the Mediterranean. But South Africa, where another whole set of sites is there, is also a Mediterranean climate. Now, in contrast to this, India has seasonal. I used to always think it was savanna landscape, but I had downloaded a book which was about savanna, and there was no chapter on India, and I was like so shocked. But then in the introduction, it said that India is not savanna. It's seasonally dry tropical forest. So I think just like I learned that day. So again, this is today's download from internet, where they're showing like the distribution of this seasonally dry tropical forest. So Africa does have, I guess even this is also called savanna. So there's a kind of intergradation between savanna and seasonally dry tropical forest. But India has basically most of the seasonally dry tropical forest. Okay, now when we come to MIS 5, there are multiple hominins, like populations, which are just genetically distinct enough that they can be recognized and given different names like Neanderthal, Denisovan, moderns, and there must be many more also. So so there's a high diversity of genetic diversity of humans during that time. Humans are widespread all over the globe, all over Eurasia. But the stone tools you cannot recognize modern humans from the stone tools during MIS 5. So the stone tools used by Neanderthals and the stone tools used by modern humans are both complex. They both of them have prepared cores, point technology, and frequent occurrence of blades. Occasionally, blade technology dominates. So you cannot make an association between the lithic technology and what kind of human you have at that time, because there's a high diversity of technology and a similar level of complexity in the technology used by different humans. Now, during MIS4, this is what I've been doing for the last year, is trying to just find out which are the sites which belong to MIS4. And this is when I realized that most of the famous sites of this time period, they are in the Mediterranean zone. And there's almost no sites belonging to this period in India. However, if you say that most of the sites are in South Africa, and then there's a lot of sites in the European and African Mediterranean, the Northern Mediterranean, you find that this is the time when modern humans are absent from that zone. But in contrast, in South Africa, in the Mediterranean zone, you have this remarkable kind of culture during this cold period, the MIS4, which is called Huisenspoort. And it's a remarkable upper Paleolithic stone stool technology. So this, when people found it before they could date it, they thought, oh, this looks like Upper Paleolithic, but it was confined to this one zone, this in a very short time period. Now, when you come to MIS3 in East Africa and South Africa, these microblade and blade technologies of stage 4, they transform into something much less like the Upper Paleolithic of Europe. So where did the early middle MIS3 dispersal of modern humans into Europe originate? Did it come from Africa? Because if you see, let me go back to this. Yeah, so this whole zone here in between the Mediterranean zone and the seasonally dry tropical forest, that's all desert. That's all desert. So in this arid period of MIS4, this was abandoned. So you have no people living in this zone. In this zone, you have Neanderthals. Then you have modern humans here. You have modern humans here, and maybe you also have modern humans in this zone. Now, where did the modern humans come? Did they just come through the Nile? Did they all just burst out from there? But at 40,000, there's not much similarity between the stone tools of Africa and the stone tools of Europe. So I think there is a possibility that, maybe modern humans originated in Africa, but maybe in MIS4, they're already in India. And maybe this dispersal, the final one, maybe it did happen. Maybe it was from India. Was it from India? So basically, this is my project right now. We're trying to either prove it or disprove it. And right now, we have kind of either option is possible. I think we have been able to date the microblade industry right up to around 48,000 from Methakeri. And we also recently, this again within the last 5 years, this group working at Dhaba in the Son Valley, they also record that the earliest microblades occurring there are at 48,000. Then the dates from this Ayodhya Hill studied by Vishnu Priya Basak, they're not as early, but they're still beyond 35,000. So this older ages for microliths, it's coming from multiple groups of people in different parts of India. Now, so this microblade technology, it is there in India from around 48,000. And it is definitely modern humans, because this technology is so stable in India, it continues. And it really only starts to change a bit in the in the Holocene period, probably with craft specialization, where you have more pressure flaking, more standardization, some more complex technology. But right through this period, there's a continuity of this technology right from this 48,000 until the Harappan. So there's undoubtedly this is modern humans. Not only that, the other thing is that the microblade technology is the only lithic technology, stone tool technology, which was not used by any other kind of hominin except modern humans. So these microblades are very important in Indian context when we don't have fossils to at least like we're sure. Like it doesn't mean something that's not microblades could be modern humans. But something that is microblades, it cannot be anything except modern humans. Now, yeah, like there's been a lot. I just have started to use the word microblade instead of microlith, and lots of people have been quite like um, they have. I don't know. People like, why have you done this? Can you do this? Like, okay. So I'm using it because like I want not to be misunderstood. And I found out that when you say microlith, it doesn't mean blade technology. Microlith could be a small tool. It could so you can there's a student there's a one scholar called Pargeter. He's written an article where he says these three properties, miniaturization, backing, and blade technology, they may not be together. They could be separate. So you can have small flakes which are backed, those would be called microliths. You can have small flakes which aren't backed, they can be called microliths. You can have small blades, you can have small blades and they can be backed or they may not be backed. They also could be microliths. Now the thing is this there are these industries which are called microliths, which does not include the element of blade technology. But within the Indian subcontinent, all of the things that we are called microliths are blade technology. So when I was writing that paper in 2013, I realized this had to be clear. So everywhere I was not using the word microlith, I was saying microlithic blade technology. And I must, of course, have used this term 30 or 40 times in that paper. So I just got fed up and I said, why am I saying microlithic blade technology? I will just say microblade. And that's what I did. That was actually the reason for my changing it, was just like, using less words. But afterwards I realized, like when people started like challenging my use of it, it turns out that microblades are very significant because they are a definite indicator of modern humans. And I think we should use it because they are microblades. Okay. Now, I don't think there's any other part of the world where microblades are used over such a long period. In fact, like that paper in 2009 about Jwalapuram, they've said longest enduring, but they're only going back to 35,000 or 30,000 in that paper. Microliths are like since the 1980s, we have known that there are microlithic sites in India which were beyond radiocarbon dating. So there is no doubt that this technology was very stable once it occurred in India. So now I think we really have to figure out what was going on in India in MIS4, because this 48,000 is coming close to the boundary of the early of MIS3. And what happened in MIS4? This is what we are trying to find out. Hopefully, I'll report this in a few years. Now, okay. So this is about the microblades. And of course, we already know about the Acheulean being the other big phase in Indian Paleolithic. So what comes in between microblades and large flake Acheulean in India? So this is also one of the very interesting things which has come up over it's completely transformed my understanding. Like I always considered, I have argued that large flake Acheulean in India is equal in age to that in Africa, and I actually believe that Acheulean probably originated in India. But that's one thing. But then maybe the Acheulean in India continues until quite a late period. How do we know? So in this last 5 years, these two papers which I'm showing you here, my paper, 2017, which is published in Puratattva. It was the memorial lecture for AP Khatre. And this work of Akhilesh Kumar and Shanti Papu, about the Middle Paleolithic at Atirampakam. So this Achilles and Shanti, they had a step trench in which they have a number of Middle Paleolithic horizons, and they were able to show that with the OSL dating, that these industries date from around 385,000. Now you see this matches very well with the European data, where the boundary between Lower and Middle Paleolithic is set somewhere around 350,000 in marine isotope stage 9. So this is, of course, it's just the first dates. Now, what I had written in this 2017 paper, where I reviewed the Narmada data, because that was where Khatri had worked, and I should have made the title like this, but I realized something when I wrote this paper. Now, in the Narmada Valley, there is this site called Samnapur, which is not Acheulean. But what is it? It's not like anything that's called Middle Paleolithic. It's not. It has large flakes. It has cores. So it's a kind of core and flake industry, and it is, it its stratigraphic context is like there's two units in the Narmada around Samnapur. The lower unit is reddish. It has Acheulean, and the upper unit is yellowish, and it has a volcanic ash. Now, the geologists have, correlated the volcanic ash to the YTT 75,000. But I am convinced that these volcanic ashes are not all of YTT. Of course, some of them are, but not all of them. And this yellow unit overlies the Samnapur industry, and the red unit underlies it. So if this if that yellow unit belongs to the time of that volcanic ash, and the volcanic ash is not YTT, but instead MTT is 500,000, then that means that the Acheulean in India has already ended before 500,000. So this is what I have suggested in that paper. And then just, a little bit later, this Shanti and Akhilesh and Shanti have actually got dates from a kind of flake industry which is much smaller, probably younger than the Samnapur one, which is going back to around 385,000. So then the other work that has been done on this, which is also quite interesting, is around Son Valley and Jwalapuram, where that Cambridge, then Oxford group. So I've just put two of their papers, the one of Coriceta in 2015, which is a good summary of the data, and then this Haslam paper, which is just discussing the sites which are earlier than the Toba ash. So if Toba ash is at 75,000, then anything below it belongs to MIS 5. So this is where you get that data. So anyway, if you accept these earlier dates for the Middle Paleolithic in India, which was I think it's the biggest new thing in Indian prehistory. That means that between this Acheulean and the microblades, it's not 50,000 years, it's not 100,000 years. It's like 400,000 years. So this is a huge amount of time where we have to start figuring out what happened. And I think this will be work for maybe another generation of Indian archaeologists. Anyway, there is some papers, which consider that Acheulean in India is very young. And I really don't agree with this, although there are some phases of Acheulean later than large flake Acheulean. Some of them have miniature hand axes and cleavers. Maybe these do come in a younger time than for 4 or 500,000 years, but we don't have any dates for it yet. But I would like to comment that the young dates that they get from the Son Valley, I think they have misinterpreted the dates completely. Because there, the Acheulean is occurring in a regolith, and the Middle Paleolithic is occurring in a fluvial deposit overlying it. Now, both of these deposits are giving the same dates. So, like they also are getting dates for 160,000, 120,000, but these are dates for Middle Paleolithic. That is okay. But they're getting the same dates for the underlying regolith in which Acheulean occurs. Now, is it right to give those dates to the Acheulean? So I would like to suggest that here you are looking like the dating method, OSL dating, is dating when the sediment got buried. And I think that basically when you look at the Son Valley, you have something which is very different from the rivers in Maharashtra, where the alluvium is confined to 1 or 2 kilometers on either side of the main channel. In the Son Valley, the alluvium goes right up to the valley edge. Now, this is something not typical. So this is that process where the craton is entering into a subsidence zone. So what I think is that this date of 160, 120,000 is not the date for the Acheulean, but it's the date for when this valley started to get buried under alluvium because of its the tectonic process of India drift, colliding with Asia. And so, like, this process is going on. Like, if you see if you see the alluvium of the Indo-Gangetic, of the Ganges Valley, then you find that the sediment provenance is from peninsular India at the base, and then at a later time it comes from the Himalayas. So this process has been going on, and this is the process probably that we're seeing, and what we're dating is the burial of those Acheulean sites because of this process and not the dating of the Acheulean. So this is just my suggestion. I really think that especially this large flake Acheulean, it is definitely almost all the sites should belong in the lower Pleistocene. And then between this 600, 500,000 to 50,000, we really are just beginning to understand what goes in there. Okay, I think in a way there's so many new things, so many interesting things to talk about, but these were just the general points. I think my 45 minutes of talking is done, so I think let me leave some time for questioning.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Indeed, it was a very intriguing talk. Thank you for highlighting some of the most interesting debates that we are having as far as Indian prehistory is concerned. Now, we do have a lot of students here, and well, no one has
No one has asked any questions.
and posted any question, at least in the messages, but I'm sure some of them will have some queries. So if anybody has a query, this is the time. If you want to directly interact with Professor Mishra, you can ask her questions directly. You can type in your questions in the chat box. I would be checking the chat box continuously.
Yeah,
Anyone has...
until somebody thinks up a question, let me just maybe summarize. So basically, what I have presented here is like, I guess the thing I wanted you to realize is that what we know is constantly changing. And you have to keep readjusting your interpretation and summary of Indian prehistory continuously. So I don't expect you to get a very clear idea. I didn't expect you to have a good answer for your exam paper. But I think currently what we know is that this microblade industry is modern humans, and it goes back older. If you see 48,000 in India and 40,000 in Europe, modern humans were in India before they were in Europe. That is for sure. Now, what happens before that is still under investigation. So this is a kind of interesting thing. Now, did modern humans already there? It's quite possible. Or did they come in during just that preceding period? We don't know. But that period is a period of there are no modern humans either in the desert or in the Mediterranean, the northern Mediterranean zone. The modern humans are in sub-Saharan Africa. Now they also, if they're already entered India, they could be also in India. Now this period, like all that went before it, right up to the Acheulean, is really we have very little data. There are probably a lot of sites. They have not been recognizably, they have not been placed into this. So I wanted to kind of like convey how much more we need to know. Okay, so I hope that I'm encouraging students to get into those problems and don't think that you don't have to accept what is known, and it's not disrespectful to disagree, because you're disagreeing because some new information has come out. So so you should always be thinking about whether you have to agree or disagree. So I wanted to convey that, like, I know in some senses, what I'm telling you now is not what I would have taught you in 2014 or 2010. Um, so this is, so basically, this is what I wanted to convey to, especially students.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any query from anyone? Any observation? If not query, somebody has typed in something. Okay, Arun is asking, ma'am, whether the protein date method will emerge in India for
Huh.
precise date finding.
No, they're not doing it in India, but it's not called protein date. It's called ultrafiltration. Ultrafiltration. So, but they filter the proteins. But they put more on the what they call it is ultrafiltration method. Yeah.
Yeah. Ma'am, there is another question from Diptarko Dotto. He's a third sem student now in our department. He's asking that he recently has read the book of Tom Higgins, The World Before Us,
Mm-hmm.
where, along with other things, Tom drew attention to Middle Paleolithic hominin migrations into Southeast Asia and Australia. His question is, how do you think the emerging picture of Middle Paleolithic hominin migration into Southeast Asia can contribute our understanding of dispersal in South Asia?
Okay, I have not read this book. I'll try to find it. But yeah, this is one thing I get very irritated with, because there is so much difference. This is one very interesting thing which nobody is commenting. And that's one reason why no one is considering these dates in India to be so significant or expecting them. See, this microblades which you are getting in India going back to 48,000, it doesn't continue to the east of India. Microblades in Southeast Asia and Australia are 7,000 or even 3,000 years old. So there is a big change in technology when you go to the east of India. So I had suggested that perhaps, like, how do you explain this? Um, so the modern humans in India, like if there were modern humans in India and Southeast Asia, they didn't share a technology. And it's not about environment, because Sri Lanka also has this microblade technology. So it's also a very tropical zone. So I think that, this is just part of the complexity. I have a feeling that modern humans in Southeast Asia have reached in an earlier migration. And, perhaps they were already there in stage 5. Um, so I don't know what exactly Higgins has said, but I don't think the dispersal came from Southeast Asia to India, or maybe there was just more like the migration was earlier and it transformed to something different in India. Maybe if you go to stage 5 and stage 6, then you'll see more similarity between South Asia and Southeast Asia. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so somebody
Thank you.
has asked about Blinkhorn.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so many papers I could have put, but um, I find that Blinkhorn, I especially like he doesn't have much data, and he makes very big conclusions. So sometimes I just find I cannot read his papers. I get so irritated, and then I force myself to read them. And yeah, they have good dates, but then you see, वो date के पास 5 artifacts है, क्या बोल रहे हो आप, है ना? So I think it's like somewhat biased kind of interpretation. But let's see, whatever data comes out is good. I think he has one site which does date to stage 4. And doesn't there are not many artifacts. It's not that useful. And that Sandav, like they got one site in Kutch, and he has excavated like what is it? They got all the dating and so much. Like it's so difficult to do that, and then there's hardly anything that they're dating. So take a bigger trench now. At least you need 50 to 60 artifacts to tell what kind of thing you're finding. Yeah, so this stage 4 is what we're looking at. There are not many sites actually. So MIS 5 would be from 75,000 to 56,000. So it's only about 20,000 year time period. And so we're looking for the sites where we can study this and date it. And I suspect that we do have modern humans in that time period. And maybe we have the big, the development of microblade technology during that time. But we have to prove it. That's just what I think we might get it, but that's not is not enough to say that yet.
Okay. Ma'am, I have a query. It is not really pertaining to Indian prehistory, but a general query. I mean, the first slide that you started with, where you mentioned that how the uses of terminologies are changing. Instead of lower Paleolithic or middle Paleolithic, we are now mostly using Paleolithic. Now, I was very recently reading some material from East Asia, especially Korean,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I noticed the same thing. They are only telling Paleolithic in Korea and something,
yeah,
but
yeah,
we have a very different approach to this Paleolithic, right? I mean, in 40,000 years, they are talking about this presence of hand axes. I mean, of course, they are much younger in date than those conventionally known,
Hmm.
but their findings are really very different, and their way of approaching this Paleolithic is also very different. So my query is, how do you, I mean, from your knowledge, how do you contextualize these findings with respect to South Asia or Indian subcontinent?
yeah, yeah. I think one thing is that we have no idea. Like China and Korea, this whole of Eastern Eurasia,
Hmm.
it seems to be like that was right from Mobius. They consider it
Yes.
something different.
Hmm.
And I think that may be true, but you have so many factors, you have so few data points. The way the stools have been studied is different. But
Hmm.
one indication that hominins reached Eastern Asia very early is like the presence of that Flores hominin, the hobbit.
Yes.
That hominin shows like some derived characters which are pre-Homo erectus.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
means some pre-Homo erectus hominin,
Hmm.
if it descended from a pre-Homo erectus hominin, that means some pre-Homo erectus hominin was in East Asia. And I
Yeah.
think the migration route into Southeast Asia is through East Asia.
Yeah.
If you look at all these islands of this Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
the,
Hmm.
the animals which migrated there, they
Hmm.
are they are actually um, related to the tatrode fauna of India, not even the Pinjore fauna.
Hmm.
So this is like somewhere beyond before 2.5 million years. So I think that it's a very possible that you had some Australopithecine type populations in Eurasia.
Hmm.
They were making tools, but not making stone tools, which makes them much more less visible. And
Hmm.
then that's the only explanation for how you can get a creature, a hominin, which has these characters that are more resembling Australopithecus than Homo erectus. That even if they're younger, they are from an earlier lineage. So that is one thing I think.
Hmm.
So I feel that you shouldn't like use these terminologies which become misleading. Like in India, when we are using the word upper Paleolithic for microliths and
Hmm.
and nobody understood that microblades are in India at this early stage. And in fact, many Indian archaeologists also think that microblades are only Holocene because of
Yes.
using this wrong terminology. And
Hmm.
so I think now we should just like look at it, try to kind of place it into this global kind of stratigraphy of climate,
Hmm.
because climate is global. So for the up to maybe stage 6, 7, this is kind of possible. And so that then you begin to see like where things match up and where things don't match up. So I think in stage 5, I'm not sure about East Asia. I think in Southeast Asia, all of these chopper chop and all that Sonian, it all
Yes.
belongs in this middle phase. It's not lower Paleolithic at all.
I'm,
It's
I
part
think
of
the
the
earliest date from China is now around 1.55, 1.6, the
no,
Nihewan
the
Basin.
Nihawan Basin, they even have
Yeah,
some earlier stuff. But
yeah.
I had visited that site. They never showed the artifacts. They were really, I feel the artifacts are some, I don't know. They didn't convince me, but lots of archaeologists accept them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I still like, so basically, when you look, if you think of Australopithecines being a kind of bipedal ape,
Hmm.
so we're not degrading them because ape behavior is very complex.
Hmm.
And all the apes in Africa, both chimpanzees as well as gorillas, but especially chimpanzees, every group that has been studied uses tools and they use them for getting food. So the termite fishing, the digging, the breaking nuts, all these things are there. But they're not using stone tools. So I think the stone tool thing is like, it's not that important a landmark except to archaeologists because it makes the hominins visible. So at this horizon of 1.8 million, you suddenly see all this evidence outside of Africa. But at that same moment, Acheulean appears in Africa, but Acheulean is also in India at that time.
Yes.
So I think it's just like a kind of chance. Like, and these early, many of the early lithic, I mean, stone tools are not complex. They are not more complex than the non-stone tool kind of tools. So it's just like when that happened, then the record becomes visible. But there might be a lot of they might be widely dispersed in this Australopithecine stage. I don't think Australopithecines were confined to Africa.
And ma'am, what's your opinion about the Dikika project and what they are
Which project?
claiming? Dikika project, Dikika, where they are.
Okay. I've not kept up that much with it, but yeah, now you're getting earlier and earlier. You're getting, and you're
Yeah,
getting
they are
diversity
claiming
in the
3.3 million. Yeah, they are claiming 3.3 million
uh,
dates.
I
Yeah.
think it's quite possible. See, like all the Australopithecines were not making stone tools because in like this, nobody really seems to emphasize it. But the older one is more or less confined to East Africa, and you also find it maybe at Einheim. And in South Africa, there's no stone tools, and the species are not the same. So that just shows that you have all these diverse populations. Now, these non-Ordovon stone industries, which some of them are earlier than the Ordovon, some contemporary, they do have multiple species of Australopithecines, and it's quite possible that one of them is making these tools.
Okay.
So basically, that point I had not come to, it was on the last. I feel like the Acheulean is such an important thing, not because the tools are more complex, but because those tools were carried. And if you see the carrying, it implies a different kind of, I mean, it implies many things. And that's why I think there's a strong correlation between Acheulean and Homo erectus and this change which happened from Australopithecus to Homo, which required a more like nutritious diet. Like the Australopithecus, without cooking, without processing food, you cannot have a bigger brain. So apes are basically have their um, yeah, they have the maximum size of brain, and they spend about 7 to 8 hours chewing food the whole day. So they can't have a bigger brain until you need to chew less. Oh yeah, Arun has asked, what about paleo environment of Son Valley? Will you? Yeah, yeah, that's a good book. There was a lot of data in that, and then like whatever has been done, you can see those Haslam papers and Clark. There's a few more recent papers. They are revisiting those sites, and they're getting a few more dates. But basically, even at that time, they were getting the same dates for Acheulean and Middle Paleolithic. So I think there has to be some. I don't think that the Acheulean and Middle Paleolithic the same age in the zone. So one of them is wrong. So the Middle Paleolithic date fits. Actually, it doesn't fit. So there should be some other explanation why those dates are coming from that context. So I think the dates are correct. They're just not dating the Acheulean. They're dating something else.
Okay.
That's my interpretation.
Okay, I don't think we have any more query as of
Okay.
now. Sabla sir, are you there?
Yeah,
Yes, sir. If you would like to, say a few words.
yeah. So I think all queries, questions of the students are over. I think ma'am has given very good solution or clarification of each and every question. Friends, uh, within a very short our request. So Sheila Mishra ma'am, he was ready to deliver the lecture in a departmental discussion group. Of course, last time already I means what contacted to men. The Earth Science Week is going on, and on the occasion of Earth Science Week, so we have to organize your lecture. And you know, friend, ma'am is not only covered the prehistory, but the Indian landscape, evolution of the landscape, tectonic activities, then environment, paleo environment, and human activities, and then these type of the tools which recovered, and on the basis of that, the human evolution and so many kind of things and activities. So man-land relationship. So many points within a short time she has covered, and I think everybody has enjoyed ma'am's lecture. Uh, so on the behalf of department, of course, this is a ma'am's department, and she has delivered very nice lecture. So on the behalf of department, I once again thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving wonderful lecture. And I think this is a very time being it is a small one, but next time we will organize a very nice lecture, long lecture on a specific topic. So once again, I thanks to Sheila Mishra ma'am for delivering this lecture, and all the staff members and students who are attending this lecture, as well as I thanks to Amrita Sarkar ma'am for taking efforts to organize this kind of activity. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Amrita. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, students.
Thank you, students. So, on behalf of, as the coordinator of the archaeology discussion group, I thank all of you that you have come, and ma'am's really within a very short notice, she has agreed to do this lecture. So, we do these lectures twice a month on second and fourth working Saturdays, and we have made this an open lecture now. It's open to all. Anybody can attend. So the next lecture, the notification for the next lecture will very soon be uploaded in the social media handles of Deccan College, both Insta and Facebook page. So please keep an eye on them. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. Bye, everyone.